Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we're joined by Danny Sheriff. Danny is the founder and CEO of the HA Society, the world's leading clinic and community helping women recover from hypothalamic amenorrhea and restore fertility, often in as little as 3 months. She's also the co-owner of Jewel Wellness, a supplement company acquired after years of real-world use with fertility clients, and the host of the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. Behind the scenes, Danny is an elite operator known for building systems, teams, and content engines from the ground up. I've asked her to join us here today to share her story and insights into hormones, fertility, and building real results without guesswork. So, Danny, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. And as we're recording this at the end of the year, and so I've been kind of just recapping with my team how everything went. And this feels like a fitting way
Uh,
to have a conversation about all the things that we do and
all
how
the
it's
things that
going.
you do. And before we get into what you're doing now, how did you even get into this? I mean, the industry is one, but also building businesses. So do you come from a
Mm.
family of entrepreneurs or are they in the fertility industry? Like, are you just carrying the torch?
No.
No?
Yeah,
No?
not even remote. I mean, I think like my grandpa was a carpenter and he might have had his own business. I think for a minute my dad did for himself too, but it's definitely not something that has been prominent in my family until I came along. And I was reflecting on this just this week too, that I was a screen kid. Like I watched a lot of TV and I was on a lot of
Oh,
computers at a
okay.
young age, which, gets a bit of a bad rap. But it turned out from me being the youngest of three and everyone being a bit too busy to take care of me, that I was off on my own and was lucky enough to not end up in anything nefarious and just got really into coding. And
Hmm.
so all through high school, I was really self-teaching, learning by myself how to build things online. Everything from I had the best MySpace in the
What?
world through to I
Well,
had
that's
my
a
own.
throwback. MySpace. My goodness.
Yes, I had one of the blinged out ones and my own like full-on .com websites, and I was kind of coding in using Notepad and uploading directly to an FTP, which is like a
That's
pretty
that's gangster
wild way
right
to do
there. That's gangster.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's the hood of coding.
I'm
And
from the streets, y'all.
but funnily enough, as time went and it was time to graduate and move on and make career decisions, I wanted to be online, but I didn't have anything. I really was
Yeah.
like, I don't have hobbies, I don't have knowledge, I don't have expertise. What would I build an online business for? But yeah, I really always wanted to. So then, 20 years goes by, I do corporate, I do hospitality, I do
Mm.
random things, and I actually end up starting my own cafe in Sydney, Australia. And that was my first entrepreneurial, like I just really got into coffee in my late teens and it just took off. So I did that for a bit, learned a lot. It was successful in some ways, but not majorly. And I ended up closing it because I burned myself out really
Mm.
fast on it. Like it was just a full-on job. And at the same time, I was training in Olympic weightlifting. I had picked up Olympic weightlifting when I was
What?
18 and I was hustling. So I'm a very productive, high achieving
What's
person
your
who likes to put a lot
Olympic? What's your personal interest? What's your
on.
max snatch?
My full snatch is what we would prefer to call it, was just at body weight for
Yeah,
me.
that.
So,
What do you mean just at body weight? That's not. I
well,
mean,
we're not breaking world records by any means,
okay,
and certainly never went to the Olympics.
right.
But that was that. And yeah, clean and jerk. I was 70 kilos and probably somewhere in the world of 89 kilo clean jerk. So, whatever.
Ah, God.
It wa- yeah, but the thing was, I had no business doing everything I was doing at the same time. It was so much.
Apparently, you did it.
I did, but with all of that on my plate, I completely lost my menstrual cycle and my health was just nothing. I was holding on cortisol every day, over caffeinated, and I was also tracking my macros because I wanted to like, yes, it's a weight class sport, but I also wanted to look the way that I wanted to look. And so I'm running a business, working 7 days, I'm training 5 to 6 days, and I'm restricting food from myself actively. So pretty quickly, I lost my period and I didn't have it for throughout that
8 years.
whole process.
Wow.
And women lose their menstrual cycles on less than what I was doing, but there is a theme where we take it to the extremes in a few departments.
Right.
And that's what happens. It's stress, it's under fueling, it's over exercising. And that's what hypothalamic amenorrhea is. I didn't know it was really a problem. I knew intuitively why it was happening. It was very obvious to me. And I had heard, like, oh, gymnasts don't get their period. Like, I had kind of connected these dots, but I didn't mattered. And I think that's part that's really important is like a lot of people don't know it matters. And even medical professionals will tell them, well, until you want to get pregnant, let us know. Or just go on the pill, that'll fix it. And it actually doesn't do anything. I went to the doctor just for an annual well women's visit. I had moved to the United States by this point, and that doctor had asked me how my menstrual cycle was, and I said I don't have it. And that was the first person ever in all those years to say, well, we worry about women when they don't have their periods. That's what he said. That's all he said. And he prescribed me progesterone. It's just this pill you take for like 10 days, and it's a challenge. You either pass or you don't. You bleed or you don't bleed. I never took it. I knew I wouldn't bleed. I knew I wouldn't pass the challenge. That is now something that happens. This is like pretty standard protocol. So instead, I just got on the Google and, went down a whole journey of discovery about like, oh, this is a problem. Why? How do I solve this? And the big issue here is that the path to resolving this massive health issue, which we can certainly talk about like why it's a health issue, but the path to resolving it is in total opposition to what many of us are told is the way, like the way to health, the way to achievement, the way to success. It's rest, it's weight gain, it's eating food, it's not trying to be everything to everyone all the time. And that is actually, it's very simple, but it's very difficult. And going through that journey myself, which was treacherous, it was
Mhm.
tumultuous, it was so painful to let go of everything that I had developed and built this life that I thought that I loved. I got to the other side and I was like, oh, well, getting my period back, getting my fertility back, that was way harder than it needed to be. And I noticed along the way, there was no help, no resources, no information anywhere. So I decided to start a podcast called the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea Podcast because I knew that would be when someone found out the name of it, they
Yeah.
would find
Right.
and I slowly but surely built a business from there to come full circle to have the online business I always wanted to have. I
What?
I ended up going back to school to get to get the qualifications and learn what I needed to learn. And then I created this platform and this program to help women go from A to B much faster than it took me doing
Right.
it on my
Right. That's a great story. There's so much to unpack from this. My head is full of questions. I'm just kind of
own.
buzzing from the beginning. And also, if I'm just going to be transparent, there's also like some fear because as women, bodily fluids are just a major part of life in
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
forms.
Yeah.
And for men, it's like an icky thing. Like, like
Yeah.
body fluids I really release. Anyways, we're just going to skip
Yeah.
that part. But so I had always thought, and this is where, I have daughters, so this is a roller coaster ride.
Mm.
That's why I agreed to do the interview. I'm like, I've got daughters.
Yes.
I'm already lost. The roller coaster's already started.
It's coming.
It's
It's
coming.
coming whether you like it or not.
Dude,
Exactly.
when my girlfriend and I first got pregnant, she was like, "Do you want a boy or a girl?" And I'm like, I don't really care, but if it's a boy, as a man, I can be like, "Son, as a man, this is what you need to do." But if it's a girl, like, what do
What do I
we
do?
hug? Do I have to kill someone? Like, just guide me, please. Like.
Yeah.
So this is a crash course for all maybe the dads that might be listening in. So
Amazing.
I had thought like you thought. So I've been doing CrossFit for, I don't know, something like 10 plus years. And now I
Mm.
mostly do Fraser's training, which is a lot of Olympic weightlifting, but I suck. I'm terrible. I'm just a novice. But, I notice I am like accidentally fertile. I have to be careful which direction I sneeze in because I'll just
Yes. My boyfriend is also this way.
Yes. But I noticed that if I overtrain, you mentioned overtraining, obviously drive, all that stuff goes down because your body's stressed out. So I was in that camp and that was the first thing like, wait a minute. So why is this a problem? Isn't it okay? Because you might that's part of fitness is pushing yourself. So you push yourself for a little bit, but then when you ease off and you get some rest and you have a couple of weeks of good meals, doesn't that help reset things? That was what I was thinking when you went through that. And I feel like I'm about to have a rude awakening. It's not that simple. It's not just cut a few days out of the gym or just go lighter, get some extra sleep and eat some better food.
And if you do that from the beginning, you're really probably not going to dig yourself into the hole that many people who don't do it that way
Mm,
do. So there's it's very wise, to go to the gym and do a strategic stress response to get an adaptation and then bring yourself out of it. Now you're stronger, right? So like you stress yourself. Ideally, you eat though to then come out of that stress response and you get stronger or you get faster or whatever your goal is. But a lot of people, and this is especially women, because you'll find, for men, it's like, I want to get bigger.
right,
But for women, it's I want to be smaller. And
right.
so the path and the advice typically for women is eat less. And we get that message even more than men do. More is always better, right? And so if we're told to go for a run, we're going to go for a run. But you know what? Going for 2 runs is probably better. And also being in a caloric deficit is probably better. And how about I stack on weightlifting? But they'll never bring themselves out of the deficit because the goal is
Uh,
to be thin. And it gets more complex. The self-worth can come into it, and even unicorn syndrome, that like this can work for me where
unicorn.
I'm the one that the physiology and the science doesn't apply to. I do not,
Oh,
typically it's deserving. I don't deserve to bulk. I don't deserve to eat. I don't deserve to back out of this, this phase that we're in, this cut phase. And so women end up in a perpetual cut phase and they get deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And now we're only eating lean protein and we're low carb and we're high volume veggies. And we just do that for years and years. And the depletion is chronic. And so it's not enough to just like, now it's too late to add a few more and get your period back. Now you need to
mm,
go into a complete and
recovery.
total reset.
Yeah. And these are for the high achieving, kind of, highly athletic, active people. What's the other archetype, so to speak? There's probably women. I imagine there's a lot of different women from different backgrounds going through this. So we sort of described the athletic people, I think, is what's the other?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
interesting. There are no other archetypes.
Uh,
Never in my 5-year practice have we had someone who is not a high achieving, driven, disciplined, type A perfectionistic person. It's very specific. And I'll even share with you that we never have had someone who comes from a athletic background where they do team sport. They don't play basketball, they don't play volleyball, they don't play baseball.
mm,
They run or they CrossFit or they bodybuild or they just do this like intentional exercise paired with intentional restriction. So
mm,
I've had some dancers. We'll get rock climbers. There can be this like cross between, hey, I do a sport that actually like values or is improved by leanness that they'll take really far. But interestingly, actually, there are not many variables. So we find that women who connect with, like, okay, I want to do well in my career, I want to control my body, I go to the gym every single day, I track my food. This is a very specific type of woman.
mm,
And we all know one, right? They're not that rare. They are around us. It could be your sister, it could be your mother, it could be your neighbor, it could be your wife's best friend, it could be your sister-in-law. They're everywhere if you keep an eye out for them. They're probably in your CrossFit gym somewhere. It's fascinating in that when I began this podcast, I was bringing on women and we're all the same. We're all basically the same. And
mm.
I think that's really
Telling.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Got it. So that is super interesting. I want to unpack this a bit because when it comes to diet and exercise, I often say, and so maybe in some ways I'm perpetuating a problem here, but I often say that the most important secret to lifespan extension, sitting in public view that nobody talks about and everybody dances around, is the one method that's been the most proven, most reliable means of extending lifespan of every creature it's been tested on. Do you know what that is? Caloric restriction for eating. By under eating, you can make anything live something like 20 to 25% longer. Now, to do that and be healthy, and this is where, I'm kind of a paleo guy because people are always like, oh, I talk about macros. I need my carbs, my proteins, and my fats. What people don't talk about is vitamins, minerals, and enzymes. And those things don't come out of a box. You have to eat real food. If there's a food label on it, it's not food. There's no food label on the chicken, on the cucumber, on the tomatoes. And those are the things that have the enzymes and the vitamins and the minerals. I mean, you might get your box of cornflakes that's iron fortified, but there's no enzymes in there. And those are a little thought of, but immensely important part of the diet. But what you're saying here is that overdoing exercise and caloric restriction is basically going to lead to hypothalamic amenorrhea. And
Yeah,
so,
prolonged low hormone function. Yeah.
So what are the symptoms of this? Is it mostly just manifesting when women like can't bond with their girlfriends because they're not having their periods? I was gonna say perioding, but that's not a verb. They're not perioding when they're out for lunch with their girlfriends, and then they have like a relationship and they want to get pregnant, but they can't. Is that how it mostly manifests, or are there other symptoms that come out where this is the root cause?
So the big ones are low libido and high irritability, and they becoming very, I would say, neurotic. So we start to lose the ability to be spontaneous. So taking your example of like the clean eating paleo space, this is a area where like, everything makes logical sense and there is truth behind everything that is being told. But in this space is quite a bit of fear mongering. And it becomes the idea of eating outside of my designated way of eating and what is right, what is good, what is noble, what is worthy, what is healthy, what is going to give me longevity creates a stress response that spikes cortisol and keeps us in that. And now, if their significant other who maybe have or their girlfriend who maybe doesn't have necessarily these strong philosophies says, hey, want to grab a pizza with me? The answer is not only no, but it's like, how dare you? And it's like, it's stressful. They can't do it. If you want to take me out to a restaurant, I need to know in advance so that I can look at the menu so I can see if there is something that I can have. And what this does, which people don't realize, is it creates a very strong sense of restriction. Now, let's talk fasting. So, fasting is interesting, and we can talk about it forever and ever, but we'll try to keep this like succinct.
Sure. I'm interested.
But yeah, fasting, you can fast and not lose your period because it's the food is coming back. This is a strategic fast, a spiritual fast. This is temporary. This is happening for me, not to me. And it's a very different mindset when you're coming at it as I don't deserve food. I should not have this food. This food is dangerous to me. Less is better. I love the feeling of being hungry. I'm going to force myself into hunger and I'm going to do it for as long as I can. No one ever said fasting 100, like if you fast forever, you will eventually die. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's
you
called
need to come
famine.
out of it.
It's starvation.
Yes. These girls are in famine. They are not fasting. And they're always in it. Sometimes it turns into a binge restrict situation, and other times they're able to just perpetuate it. And in fact, they get to a point where they cannot eat more. And now we start to border onto an eating disorder, right? And so there's like a Venn diagram here, and a lot of women have disordered eating, and that is enough for many of us to lose our reproductive cycle. And this happens because you don't need to reproduce to survive. So it is an organ that is
It's a flower that
necessary.
opens when the time is right. But if the seasons aren't in place, that flower is
When,
not going to
yes,
blossom.
some interesting, like where Weston A. Price, when he went and did his studies on the tribes, things that these people say, like, we can't get pregnant when the thinness has taken us, when the famine has taken us, and direct correlations between an increase in birth rates seasonally, right? So when
Mm.
the season has produced more food, fertility is at a higher rate. And this is documented in tribes. Not saying that fasting doesn't have benefits, but chronic fasting is certainly correlated with infertility rates. When women start eating, we can start having babies. There are reasons that these ancient tribes, when a newlywed couple is ready to start conceiving, gives them the organ meats and gives the higher fat cuts of the animals and leaves the flesh for those who don't need those things, right? We've always intuitively known this as a species, but as our culture progresses, we're focusing more on, hey, you need to look a certain way. You need to be so obsessive about this and that. Another interesting thing that I think you'll get, because I was very strong in the paleo space too, food is so abundant to us now, and highly processed food is so available to us that we actually need to work to avoid it. When in the past we needed to work to get food, now we kind of need to avoid it. That's how all around us it is. And this is a message we get too. Fear the food around you. This fear response
Mm.
is a massive part of hypothalamic amenorrhea and a massive part of hormone suppression. We see women eat into a caloric surplus. They'll be like, yeah, I get up to 25, 300, calories a day. I'm still not menstruating because they're still putting it in a box. It's still safe foods. Now, typically, there's still a lot of lettuce and carrots and mushrooms and like high, things that are low in calorie, high in nutrients. But like we're also seeing that until you have a bit more of a chilled out relationship with the food around you, your hypothalamus is sensing this famine and it knows that food is not coming because you are the one deciding that it is not coming. And there is no end to this famine in sight. And something happens very differently when you know that there is an end to the famine in sight. It's crazy the complexities of it. Um,
Yeah, it sounds like a
yeah.
complete mind game. I'm not going to say the word to keep this in the PG section, but
Women need food. Like we need food to run every one of our
well,
even though some are not essential for life right now, like your heart beating and your lungs breathing, they are important for long-term health. And the chronic depletion of estrogen will take everything from you. It'll take
that's
your happiness.
that's what I was going to lead into next. So for women that aren't trying to get pregnant, fertility is a valuable metric because it's a measure of health as
Hmm.
well, I would imagine.
Hmm. Yeah.
This is such a weird, sorry. But can we talk about, are there different types of menstruation? Like when a woman starts menstruating, is there a flow or a texture that's healthy versus not?
Yeah, and it's like there is a interpretation. I mean, I see you squirming, so we won't even talk about cervical mucus, but it's very magical. There are things you should be looking for in your cycle. It should be around a certain length of time. You should be ensuring that you're ovulating because that's actually the most important part, right?
Mm.
It's not enough to bleed. You must also ovulate and to have a sufficient luteal phase. And this cycle we go through, men go through the same one, but 24 hours, and ours is a month long. So you are always fertile, and a woman is only fertile for about 5 days out of the month. Surprising how so many of us get pregnant, but also goes to show why so many don't. This
It's a
is really
huge
important.
problem. When we were in Vietnam, my now wife and we did this improv workshop. And one of the ladies that worked there worked at a fertility clinic. And she said that their clinic saw something like 200 couples a day. I was
Yeah.
so
And
shocked.
there's a part of me that's like, ooh, and I'm sure you would probably imagine too, a lot of this is lifestyle based, and a lot more
Yes.
people are dealing with infertility than certainly should be. And it's clogging up those infertility clinics for sure.
Well, it's marketing. I mean, marketing is a huge, it's profit. There's more profit in sickness than in health. I'm of the belief that most people are good. We'll put that out there. Generally speaking, most people do the right thing. Most people are good. But there's an element of people that just are a goal at any cost. And you would almost say that there's a circuit of foods that send you to places where you get put on prescriptions that allow you to eat the foods that send you to the places to get the prescriptions. And you end up on this hamster wheel where, like, if an animal or a tree dies in the forest, there are things which feast on it. That's their, like a vulture, which
Yeah.
typically we think of in a bad way, but they're
Mhm.
scavengers. And there's those in societies too. We call them ambulance chasers. There's a whole industry of people that profit from the death of your family and loved ones. We need those people to complete the cycle, but sometimes they get overzealous. Let's just put it that way. And
Well, yeah,
so,
there's no benefit in them letting you know. Like a fertility clinic won't tell you why your period is missing. They will just tell you what drugs they can give to help you get pregnant.
oh, 100%. One of my staff, I mean, first off, I'm an idiot and you shouldn't take anything I say for granted. I poked myself in the eye multiple times, so shouldn't be trusted with anything. One of my staff, her and her whole family went to see the eye doctor, and doctor gave her some like droplets to fix her eye because her number was getting higher, lower, whatever. And I was like, I'm sorry, your eyesight's not getting better, but what are the droplets going to do? Like, they're going to moisturize. She's like, oh, they're going to moisturize my eyes. I'm like, you mean like blinking? I was like, he probably just gave you, I'm like, what's the main ingredient of those drops? I bet you it's water. And I bet she charged you like 3,000 pesos for it. And she turned red and started like laugh because that's how much it was. It was 3,000 pesos for this little thing of liquid to put eye drops in her eye to prevent her eyes from getting worse. And I'm just like, I'm sort of in physics. I just don't know how that's going to
Yeah, like
change
how is it?
your vision. I mean, I put a physical lens here to bend the light, but these water droplets are going to stop my eyes from changing and morphing to bend light. Like, anyways,
Yeah.
so I just, well-intentioned
You're
people,
skeptical of
I'm
everything, and
skeptical
that
of
makes
a
sense.
lot. Yeah. But back to the health and the fertility. And so we want a mucus rich, heavy flow. How do you know
Yes.
if you're ovulating?
So, yeah, so first of all, cervical mucus approaching is how you know you're about to ovulate. So every month, and so women with HA will not produce cervical mucus, or at least not in abundance. And mucus is very important, and you know its role because its role is to keep sperm alive for 5 to 7 days. It makes 5 days, keeps it alive, it keeps it nourished, so that when you ovulate, it can go and do its job. So it's very complex and it's amazing.
Oh,
So
it's a
it can keep
miracle.
sperm alive in you for that long. And so it's directly correlated with a follicle developing on your ovary. So if you don't have a follicle developing and you don't have cervical mucus, then you're not producing estrogen and you're not ovulating. So that's our first clue. If those
Mm.
things are happening, great. Then other women they track their temperature. So fascinating, but this is very, very old science that we have known to be true and proven. This is not made up. But your resting basal body temperature at nighttime is about 97.4 degrees Fahrenheit or
Mhm.
36.4 degrees Celsius. And when a woman ovulates, it rises. Your metabolism increases. You have a whole organ now doing a really big
Oh,
thing.
she's hot and
And
bothered. Ah, that's the expression.
yes, and so now we're above 98 degrees or above 37 degrees Celsius. And so we take our temperature every day. And now there's all kinds of tech out there, rings, wearables, but nothing works better than an oral thermometer. And you just put it in your mouth at your nightstand and you test it. And so if you
Oh,
see that, if what? Oral thermometer, you put in your mouth.
yeah, yep, that's right. That's where you put
Yeah,
them.
nothing better than that. And when you see that women chart it, they chart it on a graph every month
Mhm.
and you can see it. And this is becoming more and more common because it's the easiest possible way to get a
Mm.
monthly report card because it tells you
Mm.
what your estrogen is doing, what your progesterone is doing, what your LH and FSH is doing. And these are all biomarkers that people can use to just make sure everything's working. And as long as it's working, you have nothing to worry about. And that's
Mm.
what we use as a tool in our practice. If your chart doesn't look like how it's supposed to look, we're going to work with you on your lifestyle and habits and behaviors until it does. So it's like
Mm.
objective evidence of your healthy cycle.
I'm really trying to be very mature in this conversation.
That's
I'm,
okay.
I'm really proud of myself how far I've made it so far.
That's okay.
So you're recommending the oral thermometer that you put in your mouth because that's what you use oral thermometers for, and tracking your body temperature at what time of day?
Just when you first wake up. So it's only accurate when you first wake up.
You wouldn't use one of
Because
those like fertility things, like the thing that you pee on that tells you if you're ovulating or not?
waste of money. absolute waste of money. They don't
Really?
even work. And like there's such an expensive way to get information that this can tell you. This
That's
is just
super
like such
fascinating.
an extra way of getting the exact same information. And I've regularly had clients with those devices, and I've put their chart up against their temperature chart, and they both look identical. In fact, the temperature chart was easier to read. And so then it's like, okay, wow, yeah, I really don't need to fork out all this money on this device because like I only needed this.
Yeah, I love that. So how frequent and how long do you need to take these measurements to get sort of
Baseline, 2 weeks. 2 weeks tops, you know what's happening. You know if someone is in a good range, if they're too low, if they're up and down. This is indicating for us low estrogen, unstable thyroid, or underactive or overactive thyroid. You can really determine a lot with it within the first 2 weeks. And so that's what we use to determine how deep someone is into their situation.
Now, is there a way to maintain the exercise and the caloric restriction, like for women that, that are happy in their situation? They're just unhappy about the lack of menstruating, the lack of fertility, the low libido and neuroticism. But if they're generally happy with everything else,
Which
is
is
it?
everyone, to be clear. No one is ever excited about changing this life that they've built for themselves. They, as far as they're concerned, they're doing what they want to be doing. But yeah, absolutely. It's just that you can't easily do both at the same time. The best thing to do is go into a recovery phase, let yourself heal, and then you rework your beloved exercise or sport back in, but from a healthier standpoint. You just can't do the same thing you did before. You're going to have to be smarter about it. And in fact, to not go into the healing phase and try to recover at the same time as maintaining your exercise, which by the way, we all do. I tried, doesn't work. It's only prolonging and maintaining the same mindset, right? Of like, I should be able to figure out a way to be healthy without feeding myself, without resting. It's maintaining the exact same narrative, and it's not a healthy place to be. And I challenge those people with this. If you truly value exercise and you truly value health, because I get that all the time, right? But Danny, I still want to be healthy. I still want to exercise. I still want to be fit. If you really actually care about those things, then you will let yourself heal because that's what you're saying. You're saying you value health, you value fitness, you value wellness. If you refuse, what you're actually telling me is you value weight loss and you value body control and you value food control. Because otherwise, doing the right thing for your body wouldn't be a problem. So here we are with you being presented with an opportunity to truly look after yourself and truly listen to your body and truly find health, and you don't want to do it. So now we need to have a come to Jesus because I believe that you believed that you thought you were being healthy and that you care about health. But when we really dig in, when we really peel the onion layer back, you don't want to gain weight. And that says a whole lot about your priorities.
Hmm.
And that's hard. That's hard to hear. But 10 out of 10 women have this problem.
Well,
Like,
there's got to be something
it's
missing
true.
because I'm listening to you, and obviously you're the expert in this field. And I'm thinking
Mhm.
about, because we talked about Olympic weightlifting and CrossFit, those are intense sports. So in the back of my
Yeah.
mind, I've been thinking like, well, if someone's committed to excelling in those fields, if they're a professional athlete or even just a serious hobbyist, they do have to give it up in order for this. But I believe, I mean, you're an Aussie. So Tia Claire Toomey, she went to the Olympics for weightlifting. She's won the
And
CrossFit.
had no fertility issues.
And she's just had a baby. Annie Thor's daughter, same thing. She's a specimen, a physical specimen, been in the game for over a decade. She just had a kid. I think Cara Webb too. Yeah.
Well,
So
I have something interesting to tell you about these people.
okay.
So prior, I worked at a nutrition coaching company called Working Against Gravity. Don't know if you ever heard of it, but we were one of the original macro tracking companies that was very, very popular in CrossFit. I'm pretty sure Annie Thor's daughter, but maybe not Annie Thor's daughter, but definitely Katrin Davis' daughter.
Mm.
Cara Webb and
Well,
Claire
Katrin did it.
Toomey.
Annie did it because they're best friends.
Okay. First of all, everyone you just said is the 1% of the 1%.
Right.
But I can tell
It
you
speaks to
that
incredible
never
levels of
underate.
fitness.
Their nutrition coach is my best friend, Adi
Mm.
Kaju. at the time of them competing at their highest level. They did not undereat, and their performance was their absolute
Blue. Yeah.
priority.
Yeah.
They would eat what they needed to eat. And even if they did undereat, it was because they were exhausted and couldn't be bothered. It was not because they were intentionally starving
Yeah.
themselves. We
Yeah.
saw this with other athletes. I will not name names because probably not appropriate. I could definitely off camera for you whose performance improved when we increased their food.
You can take the same cohort of athletes and improve their nutrition, and one will pull
Yeah.
away from the rest because it's optimal fueling.
And so I'm not saying like I believe I'm obsessed with women's sports. I love sport and I believe that women can be some of the highest athletes in the world. And
Sure.
it saddens me that they actually hold themselves back by food restriction. So
Yeah.
this issue is not, oh, women can't do high level sport. It's women can't do high level sport and restrict themselves of food. And
Right.
it sounds super obvious, but they're doing it
No,
everywhere.
I appreciate this because I feel like we're really getting to the heart of the matter, which is that they're not doing it
Mm.
properly. It's that they're doing it
Yeah.
wrong.
And
There's a way that the top 1% are achieving peak levels of
100%.
human fitness, and then they're pumping out babies as much as they want. So,
Absolutely. And perhaps where we're losing each other maybe is if you have accidentally allowed yourself to get in a situation where you now actively have hypothalamic
yeah,
amenorrhea, you will
yeah.
have to stop temporarily to resolve the issue.
Stop
But
the-
if
yeah.
you're eating and fueling from the get-go, you may never have this problem.
Right.
So it's more just like if you
Yeah.
care about your sport, you'll stop, drop, and roll so that you can get back to it, like any injury.
Yeah. 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 That's essentially it. Like you've handicapped yourself. You've basically created a health debt, and you have to rest, recover, rebuild your fundamentals. Normally they say stop the bleeding, but in this case, we want to start the bleeding. Then you can get back into it. And
You want to
now,
stop the bleeding of energy,
yeah, there we
right?
go. What else should we be talking about regarding women's reproductive health and menstruation that maybe I've been squeamish to ask or tiptoed around that would be useful or helpful to talk about for the audience?
Yeah, I mean, we've covered some great stuff, right? Your period is important. I'm just going to briefly explain why, though, because the one thing that we haven't done is said, really why. And I get that a lot. But why do I really need my menstrual cycle? So we've talked about like you need it, how you might lose it. We've talked about the way you can track your cycle and that there are ways that you can really hone in on how it's going. But the reason you want your menstrual cycle has far more importance than simply having babies. When women do not have sufficient estrogen and when they're not ovulating, we start to rapidly decline in bone health and cognition. And this cognition piece comes into that whole like
Mm,
neurosis, lack of libido. We stop being as quick. We're not as on all the time. We start getting really drained. Hair loss is a really common, or just like inability to grow hair, brittle hair and nails. Your skin doesn't have that glow. Like these are kind of signs of losing life, right? They're
mhm.
all present in women who have HA or Red S, if you've heard of that too, um, relative energy deficiency syndrome. These things are slowly down regulating and slowly shutting down your body. When you go to the doctor and they test your blood pressure and your blood pressure is low, and they tell you, oh my gosh, you're so healthy, your blood pressure is low.
Yeah,
No,
it's stupid.
if you don't have a period and all of these things, your chronically low blood pressure is because your body is becoming more efficient with the little that you are giving it.
Mhm.
That is all that is happening, but you are not in an optimal state. And I know
Mhm.
that women with this issue value their health. So I want you to, just take a second look at like all of the negative health outcomes. There's increasing research in heart health and estrogen connection.
Mhm.
It is so much more than having babies. If you never plan to have babies, it doesn't matter. You still need to be menstruating.
For health,
Longevity.
if your skin's not radiant, if your energy level's not radiant, if you're not waking up feeling like you're in peak mental condition, if you have a lot of brain fog, you're not at your best self. And there's a lot of different reasons. There's the selfish reasons, but then there's also the obligation. Like you are the tip of the spear of your ancestors. Like literally thousands of humans lived, bled, died, so you could be here today. And you owe it to them to try to be your best, regardless of if
Yeah.
you decide to have kids or not. You're the tip of the spear. Your bloodline's
Yeah.
existence and the evolution over millions of years brought you to where you are today. So what? So you could run yourself into a brick wall?
Exactly. So you could choose not to eat after they tried so hard to get you access to food.
And there are people doing it. They're doing it because they're trying to do something better. But the reality is
Mhm.
that if it's manifesting in a lack of a key indicator of health, then clearly they're not doing it right.
Everyone's doing it with the good intentions, and that's why it's such a tough thing to face the day that you find out what you're dealing with.
Right. And you
Mhm.
say it takes about 3 months to get it back? Okay.
Yep, on average, 3 months. That's how long it takes a follicle to develop. So it's roughly how long it takes. Some people much faster, some people a little longer. Could depend on just how long you've had it, like your level of depletion. Because, if you haven't had your period from under eating, you're probably very mineral depleted too. So
Right.
there's a whole lot of processes that need to happen. People have digestive issues when they have HA. So there's lots of bodily functions that you're switching back on when you go into healing. Some people's bodies prioritize fertility, some people's prioritize it last. But typically, like it's not going to take someone longer than 6 months at the most. And if it is taking them longer than that, then they
They're
probably
not.
need to enlist some help because there's probably actually just some blind spots going on with how
Yeah.
they're approaching it.
Yeah. That's powerful. This has been super fascinating, Danny. There's things you brought up that I didn't expect or anticipate. I think it's really critically important. Obviously, we're in a weird time in our species right now between gender roles and defining
Mhm.
genders and all this stuff. The menstrual cycle is the heartbeat of the continuation of our species.
Yes.
And so that on its own means that it's a really important thing to discuss and talk about. And maybe a single guy has zero interest in this, but if you're a father with daughters, such as myself, that's why I'm like, okay, I don't know what I don't know. I need to be squeamish and I'm not going to die. So I just need to get through the conversation and learn what I need to learn. And for women, like you said, this is the heartbeat of the continuation of our species. Whether they
Mhm.
decide to have kids or not, they still are contributing to society and they need to show up being their best every day. So if
Yeah.
people have more questions, if they want to reach out, if they want to follow up, they want to learn more, they want to get in touch, they want to ask you a question, what are some of the best ways for them to reach out?
Yeah. TheHASociety.com is a robust hub of information, everything from what is hypothalamic amenorrhea to, hey, here's a podcast full of stories from other people for you to listen to and see if you can have a whole YouTube channel. Like there's endless amounts of free ways for you to learn about this. And then should you just feel like, I really need help, I need to speak to someone, we have a community. And we also meet with people one on one, and all of that is easily found. I've obviously built a very good website that is designed around optimizing your experience in learning about this. So that's the main place to go.
Got it. So for anyone that's resonating with them and they want to learn more, go check out the HA Society. You can also Google Danny Sheriff,
Mhm.
DANISHERIFF. Danny, this has been an honor and a pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed this in all sorts of shapes and forms. Again, is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked?
No, you nailed it. I mean, thoroughly have enjoyed having an interview like this from the male perspective. And even if there are single guys listening who are like, I don't need to know,
Your
you'll get
partner.
major brownie points for already knowing this stuff when the
Yes.
time comes.
Yes. And, it's just in the Philippines, the women are like my staff will tell me about their period. Like, how are you today? And
Yeah.
they just taught it's just a really train. I'm just not used to it, but that's why I say women, like from breastfeeding to menstruation to all sorts of stuff. Bodily fluids are just a major part of women's life in a way that men.
It's coming out of our vagina, our boobs, it's coming out of everything. And
Yeah.
then you have a baby and then fluids are coming out of them and you just got to get comfortable.
You got to get comfortable. So, anyhow, all right. Danny, thank you so much. It has been an honor and a pleasure. Go check out the HASociety.com. Thank you for coming and sharing with us, knowing you have your own community, your own podcast, your
Thank
own
you.
followers, your own company to run. Thank you for coming and sharing with all of us so we could all live longer, healthier.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.